Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello, nice to have you here, and if you are coming back, thank you so much for returning. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 or 11 words that still confuse me here over in England. If you're new here, you may not know, I'm Canadian originally, my parents are West Indian, and now I live here in the UK. And so with that, there is a lot of muddled up words, some that I know from my parents because they come from British Commonwealth countries or former British Commonwealth countries. But with that, there are quite a few words that since I've moved over here to England, they still confuse me. So I thought we could talk about that today. So the first word that I want to talk about is decorate. So that's not a weird word, right? Not at all. But here in England, at least this part of England, here in the Southwest, if someone says that they are decorating, it basically means that they are getting their hallways or their room painted. So they'll have a decorator in. Maybe that is someone putting on wallpaper, because they love wallpaper, like they love wallpaper over here, or someone who's painting. If there was someone coming in to plaster, that's another thing that's different over here, is that most of our houses in North America are made out of wood. And so you don't need someone to plaster the entire house. Whereas this wall here is brick, and then it's the outside. There's no insulation, there's nothing like that. So when this room was finished, before it could be decorated, there would have been a plasterer that came in and made everything smooth. And then they would have gone and they would have painted it. So decorate, it's a normal word, but it confuses me over here. Now the next word that I wanted to refer to was plaster, and I didn't even look at my notes, but I've already kind of gone over it. Plastering is something that you just have to get done. It's like the putty, like maybe if you were in North America and you drywalled a room, you would put the polyfiller in between the joints of the drywall, whereas here they plaster the entire wall, and that's to make it look smooth. And I think it's also to keep the damp. That's actually another word that's not on this list, damp. So if someone says there's damp coming through, they basically just mean the dampness from outside, from the rain, is starting to soak through the wall, which I didn't know was a thing, but to me that would be a leak. Like there's a leak coming through the wall, but they say damp coming through the wall. So it's not that it's a weird word, it's just weird the way that they use it, or different the way that they use it. I've got to watch my words. Okay, so the next word that I want to talk about, I had never heard anyone use this word like this until I wasn't even living here yet. I can tell you the exact moment. My husband was talking about how he had pitched some money. Maybe that's a Canadian term. Pitched would be like you're pooling money together. So they pitched in money, like that's the action. So my husband had pitched money with his siblings to pay for his parents to go somewhere for their anniversary, I believe. And so it was either their anniversary or a birthday or something like that. And so he was like, yeah, I put X amount of pounds towards it because it's quite dear. So I asked him, is that where the saying came from, my dear? Because he then sent me a screenshot of the definition of dear, and it was like basically something valuable. And I was like, well, is that why they say my dear? Because it's like, when you say my dear, you're talking about like someone you are fond of, that you probably consider valuable. And yeah, I don't know, it might be a reach, but now whenever I hear that, people will say, oh, that's dear. And it's still beyond me. I couldn't imagine ever using it. I still don't really understand it, but yeah. So this next saying, I can't say it without thinking of my friend Tabitha. She's from the north, she's from York, and we saw her earlier this summer. If you didn't see our York vlog, you can click the card right there and you'll be linked right to it. But don't watch it until you finish watching this one. But the word is chuffed. C-H-U-F-F-E-D, chuffed. So chuffed, you would say I'm well chuffed or I'm chuffed. So basically it means like I'm excited. But again, it's not one of those words that makes sense. Like, and so I feel like I can't say it without putting on an accent, and that confuses me. The next word that we're going to talk about is bollocks. I think you might know what it means, but I feel like unless you were introduced to it from a Brit, you would be confused by it. All right, so the next word, I think this word came to be here because it was the brand, it was the make of something. However, I find every single person now just refers to this home device by this word, even if this device isn't that brand. And it is Hoover. So instead of saying vacuum or vacuum cleaner, people will say Hoover. And I get it, you're hoovering it up, but again, I think that term came from the Hoover brand. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know in the comments. Okay, so this next one, so weird. Never heard this word until I moved here, and that is settee. Now, from what I understand, a settee it's not just a couch, which by the way, if you don't know what a settee is, it's basically a couch, but I do think that it's a different type of couch from what I understand, but I had never heard that word before. You know how there is like love seats and there are wingback chairs? I can't think of any else right now, but I think settee is a certain type of couch, but a lot of people just refer to any couch as a settee, and I can't stand the way that it sounds when it comes out of my mouth. It just doesn't feel right. But yeah, that's another word that just confuses me here. Okay, so this next word is natter. Natter. And basically it means like, oh, I'm gonna call somebody up and have a natter. And I think the other reason why I don't like saying that word here is Canadians and a lot of Americans, we don't enunciate our T's. We make those T's D's. So I say natter, natter, like with a D, just like I say water with a D, whereas with the exception of Bristolians, most British people will say the T's in that word, or they'll just skip it out altogether, like natter, yeah. And yeah, I think because there's so many different dialects as per how people say that, I feel like I have to put on an accent in order to say this word, so I just really run away from it. Okay, so this next word, again, it's one of these words that it's not like so strange that you've never heard it before, but it is range, the range, a range. So tomorrow, we have a new range coming. My in-laws are so kind and they are buying us a new stovetop oven. That's what we would call it in Canada. Again, if you're American and you're watching this, do you call it a stove or an oven in America? That's actually another thing that's a bit different, and I totally have adopted it. Instead of saying the States, if we were in Canada, we would refer to America as the States, whereas over here in the UK, they call it America, and now I call it America as opposed to the States. But yeah, the range, I get why they wouldn't call it an oven, because the oven is a compartment of a stovetop, but then a stovetop is also something that you can get the stovetops that are just the stovetop in like a cabinet, and it's not got the oven underneath. So I totally understand that, but to me, range, I don't understand where that came from. Again, if you know, let me know in the comments. Okay, so the next one, we are on our second last one. It is pudding. So for me as a North American, pudding is a gelatin, a creamy gelatin, basically. Not light like a mousse, but it's just jello, a jello pudding. I don't know how else to describe it. Almost like a creme brulee type of consistency. Whereas pudding here refers to any type of dessert, basically. I don't understand why they say pudding as opposed to dessert, but it just is. Now the last thing that I want to talk about, you might be thinking, pudding, thick pudding. Pudding is just thick cream. Which brings me to the next word, thick. It's a normal sounding word, but if someone says thick here, they mean basically stupid. So if it slips out of my mouth every now and then, mainly at home, not out in public because I would feel too much like a fool, but maybe if Paul does something stupid, I'd be like, oh, you're so thick. And yeah, it just basically means you're stupid. But another thing that people do here, they'll say thick and they go, Why does that mean stupid? Because I haven't seen anybody who is stupid walk around going, And it's just one of those cultural things here that is so ingrained in everyday interactions, and people would know, like just like how with Italians, like I think this is a swear word, right? Or no, I think this is a swear word. Here is just one of those cultural things that you would know, even if someone didn't say thick and they just went like that, you would know what they're implying at. Anyways, my friends, that is it for this video. Have you learned any new terminology here? Are you an expat in the UK like myself? I would love to know a bit more about you. And if you are an Anglophile as well, you will like this series. So I hope you subscribe so you can see the rest of the videos in this series. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.